So on today's episode, we're talking fire sprinklers. Let's get to it. Here in our market in the Phoenix Valley, we have different municipalities that have different codes for fire sprinklers. Most new development in Scottsdale is going to require fire sprinklers, but here in Phoenix, the main factor for fire sprinklers is going to be the overall size of the home. If we're over 5,000 square feet under roof, not livable, we are required by the city to install a fire sprinkler system within the home. So what does this mean for homeowners that are looking to build a custom home here in Phoenix? Well, if you're getting to the point where you have about a 4,000 square foot home, you're probably going to be bordering that 5,000 square foot overall requirement, because you're going to have 4,000 square foot home plus 700, 800 square foot garage plus 500, 600, 700 square foot patio space, which is going to put you over that threshold. And today we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're going to talk about the overall process of installing a system like this, as well as the costs associated, so that as a future homeowner, you're aware of the cost considerations that this might add to the overall scope of your project. So as you might have guessed, it's crucial that for this emergency type situation that we are able to understand exactly what the requirements are ahead of time during planning and development, because it all starts with the water meter upgrade. Once we get our water meter upgrade, we know that we need fire sprinklers. We need to be able to bring in a 1-inch line, which is going to supply the volume of water necessary should an event like a fire occur within this home in the future. From there, we go with a 1.5-inch either copper or plastic line that runs from our metered main all the way to the main that's located on the house. So with that said, let's go take a quick peek. So as you can see, we have our 1.5-inch copper line that's coming into our main. And prior to us going into the house, we have our bypass that's going to allow for constant water pressure to be able to meet the demands of this unit should there be a fire event in the future. In addition to that, some of the things that we want to take into account is making sure that we have conduit under the driveway that resides out in the front yard to ensure that this 1.5-inch line is accessible and easily fixed should there need to be a repair in the future, which also negates us having to replace the acid washed modern driveway that we'll be putting in place in the next couple months. So overall, this goes in and then enters into our manifold, which is located on the interior of the garage, which is the main access panel that allows them to be able to service the unit. And then we have a pressure relief valve that allows us to be able to drain the overall system if needed for whatever reason, if it's being serviced and or if there's changes that have to take place to the system due to maybe a remodel or some additional sealing details that might be put in place later at the client's leisure. So soon enough we'll be drywalled, but this is our access panel that allows us to be able to ensure that the system is working properly. Now this is a high pressurized pipe, but we have a 175 PSI relief valve. So if the system is overpressured, it'll allow it to be able to relief and then drain out accordingly. It'll also be an area that can be serviced so that if you need to drain the system while it's being worked on, or if there's any changes to the system, as I mentioned, you could be able to take care of that. And then here's our main line that's going to go ahead and it's going to fill up our complete and entire system that runs through the whole attic cavity to get to every single room throughout the home. Lastly, we'll have a lovely red bell or fire alarm that would take place in an event that there was a fire that occurred, allowing everyone to know that the system was working and functioning as intended. By far, the most important code requirement for fire sprinkler heads is that no head resides more than 8 feet away from a wall. And the main reason for this is that if there was an event where the sprinkler system was triggered, ultimately it would allow for full coverage, allowing it to wet down the complete entire wall and really keeping the fire as suppressed as possible within a specific location within the house. And so as you'll see in our living room, we have essentially 4 heads that are sparse throughout the space that give us the overall coverage that we need. And some space like a dining room, we essentially have 1 head that's going to be able to cover the complete entire space and give us the full coverage that we need to be able to stay code compliant and to be able to create a safe living environment for those that are going to be residing in the home for years to come. So as mentioned, there's not much on the design front that's necessary from us as a GC, but there is one critical component that we need to take into consideration when having a system like this in place, and that's going to be our reflected ceiling details. In this house, it's relatively modern. We have mostly 5/8-inch drywall that's located throughout the home, and so we're able to set those head heights appropriately. But there are a few areas where we have a drywall, which would be 5/8 plus a 3/4-inch TNG, which means that we have to be able to set that height appropriately to be able to maximize its potential for functionality in the future. Other areas that you might be concerned about would be areas of box beams or coffered ceiling details, which need to be looked at as uniquely their own space because it would impede the travel or the coverage of the individual head that's located within that space. In my opinion, these are really the only design considerations that really need to be considered when putting together the overall system for the home. So as mentioned at the beginning of this video, we're gonna keep it super simple. So the last thing that we need to cover is the cost associated with a system similar to the one that we just covered today. I'm happy to say that this critical and necessary component based on the municipality that you're building in runs somewhere, in this case, about $10,000 to $12,000 overall, based on the overall footprint of this house being about 6,200 to 6,300 square feet in total under roof coverage. We appreciate you following along our channel. Please subscribe below. And if you have any questions about fire sprinklers or any project that you're looking to build here in Scottsdale, Phoenix, or Paradise Valley, feel free to reach out at any time and have a great day.